have been around. Show the girls a little good time, spinning tires in the soft ground. Crop circles round a campfire, we're gonna smolder a little grass. But watch out, Farmer Johnson's got salt shot to pepper you. Farmer Johnson's got a shotgun, running naked through a cornfield. Something came in the middle of the night, stole moonshine from a still. There's burn marks in a circle, strange signs upon the ground. He thinks the aliens have touched down in our little town. We know crop circles in the moonlight mean us boys have been around. Show the girls a little good time, spinning tires in the soft ground. Crop circles round a campfire, we're gonna smolder a little grass. But watch out, crazy Johnson's got salt shot to pepper you. Johnson took his hat off, open mic at the town hall. Said we're visitors sitting among us from somewhere beyond the stars. You don't know them cause they like trouble, they drink our beer, they like fun. I even seen them with the mayor's daughter, driving around in a local boy's truck. Oh, but we know crop circles in the moonlight mean us boys have been around. Show the girls a little good time, spinning tires in the soft ground. Crop circles round a campfire, we're gonna smolder a little grass. But watch out, crazy Johnson's got salt shot to pepper you. He says they're gonna beam us up, take us in our trucks. They're gonna beam us up, experiment on us. They're gonna beam us up, take us in our trucks. They're gonna beam us up, experiment on us. Crop circles in the moonlight mean us boys have been around. Show you girls a little good time, spinning tires in the soft ground. Crop circles round a campfire, we're gonna smolder a little grass. But watch out, crazy Johnson's got salt shot to pepper you. Yeah, girls, we're gonna beam you up, take you in our trucks. Beam you up, experiment on love. We're gonna beam you up, take you in our trucks. We're gonna beam you up, experiment on love. Beam us up, take us in your trucks. Beam us up, experiment on love. Beam us up, take us in your trucks. Beam us up, experiment on
Welcome. You have reached Gary Wheeler at station WRFR, and you have entered the zone of high strangeness, a place where the unbelievable is believed until proven otherwise. And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I would like to tell you that that theme song, which I just played, is by a country western singer named Dean Brody, and I think it's quite amazing that the whole UFO and crop circle phenomenon has entered the area of country western music, which in a sense is extremely exciting. partly just because it would be part of something so well accepted as that genre of music, kind of indicating that some of the belief systems might be changing slightly, and people are possibly becoming more open to the whole concept. In fact, you kind of see that now recently in TV. There's been several commercials sort of having ET kind of characters involved, and they seem to be changing slightly in the sense that they're not cartoon characters, that there's a hint of reality about the whole thing. So I find it interesting, and country western music has accepted it as a theme, at least in Dean Brody's case. And of course, if you're listening to the song carefully, you heard that he did bring in his pickup truck and his girlfriend, which always has to be part of a country western song, I think. So, as usual, I'm here Sunday afternoon, and callers are wanted. I want them to know as soon as they call and I answer the phone, they're immediately on air. And with that, I hope that people would call who have interest in this topic and want to talk about it, either in a questioning way, or if they have a strong opinion one way or another, or if they themselves have had some sort of experience that brings mystery to their mind. And I think all of us have had events in our life that have occurred which we really don't understand exactly what happened when they occurred, but they were extremely profound, and we seem to be deeply affected by them when they do occur. And with our frame of reference, we tend to look at them on the mystical side and say possibly that they're the result of some sort of religious experience, or, of course, from a drug experience or something like that, that there isn't something real about them. Well, there in some cases there's a pretty good chance that when you study the whole UFO field and talk about the experiences that people have had, you often find that people who read about others' experiences can relate back to something that happened to them. And it makes sense that possibly they were involved in some kind of ET interaction as well. So I'd like to talk to those people as well. And especially tonight's a good night to call, because I had a tape I was going to play, but when I put it in, it said disc error. So there's no way I'm going to play it. So it's kind of between you and I am going to play a short tape by Richard Dolan. But again, to bring up the for your information, but before I do that, I want to give a shout out to my daughter Laura, who I believe is listening maybe for the first time, and to a woman named Tara, who's the daughter of a very good friend of mine who passed away last year. And welcome to both of you. Hopefully you're listening. And also I'll talk a bit about the digital cameras again, that you should know that when you're using these cameras, including cell phone cameras, because they're digital, that their visual field extends greater than our visual field, especially into areas of ultraviolet and infrared frequencies. And often these frequencies are where UFO objects exist, so that they can be seen by the camera, but we're not seeing them when we're taking the picture in the sky. So check your photos. Take a look at the photos, especially with sky background in them, and you might be surprised that something appears there that you don't remember seeing when you took the picture. Take a moment to thank my sponsors, Diverse Landscapes in Rockland, and Eric's Best, who's an author and business consultant and good friend. Also, back to the Crop Circle song, if you want to catch up on the crop circle scene, and if you have doubting friends about the existence of ETs, show them this website and watch their mouth fall open and try to explain how these beautiful, beautiful geometric shapes can appear magically in one evening in the crop fields of England. The website address is ccdv.ws, and over this last year there's been 31 new ones, but this site also archives the past several years as far as the pictures are concerned of the crop circles. Very, very fascinating. And to remind you again, the fundraising for WRFR's move to Lincoln Street Center is still on. You can go to the WRFR.org website and find a place where you can donate. Again, I want to thank people out there who have already donated. And if you have a few more pennies saved up again, possibly you can donate more than once, especially now that we have a pledge for matching funds. So if you donate $50, the station actually gets $100. So if that continues for a while, we should be able to meet the goal, which is only a few $1,000s away, but it still, has to be met. I was going to play a little more of the tape I played last week with the interview with Kurt von Daniken, who wrote the book Chariot of the Gods. He wrote the book back in the 60s, and the book is basically looking at history through the eyes of some kind of extraterrestrial involvement throughout history, and some indicators of proof that this actually did occur. But the language that was used at that time didn't incorporate talking about flying saucers or anything like that, so it was always interpreted as some sort of of God or some sort of spiritual beings coming from the sky. It's a very good book to read, and he's written several since then. And whether you probably, if you're a watcher of cable TV, you probably have come across the Discovery Channel and the National Geographic Channel, the Science Channel, and the History Channel, and there's another one called H2, and often they're playing videos about the whole concept of ancient aliens. So there's a lot of information. Since his book came out in the 60s, there's been a lot of what some would call verification of the theory. Others would doubt its veracity because of their own prejudices or the fact that we prefer our own myths rather than looking at a possible real scenario. As far as I'm concerned, if you put our myths next to Donigan's interpretation of ancient aliens, his interpretation comes out way ahead when it comes to the basic logic of the time involved and the advancement of the human race happening over such a quick time. And there's several incidences during the development of the human race where our particular growth and advancement was much faster than could be explained by what we would call normal evolution, indicating that there was several times there's possibly been some sort of manipulation by outside beings in the field of genetics to slowly advance the development of the human being. And who's to say that isn't still going on? I personally, I hope it is, because we seem, in spite of ourselves, to be a pretty flawed kind of being when we still basically settle any kind of dispute through violence. It indicates kind of a primitive quality that we just can't seem to shake. So hopefully, with the help of these other beings, we could slowly raise our consciousness to the point where we care for each other more than we kill each other, which would be a nice change. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play the short audio by Richard Dolan, who is a UFO historian. I played it once before, quite a while ago. And he was a witness at several of the disclosure conferences. And he's written, I think, up to 4 books now, each talking about the way that the government has covered up the whole UFO story from back in the 40s with Roswell, when there was a crash of a UFO, up until the present time. So it's kind of interesting, and he covers a lot of territory quickly, and it's kind of amusing. So listen closely, and I'll talk a little more after the tape ends. If it, as I say, you're welcome to call at any time, and today would be a good day to call because there's going to be plenty of time. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and play that tape by this is Richard Dolan.
I believe we're scheduled to begin with Mr. Dolan.
Esteemed members of the committee, thank you for having me. I'm a researcher and historian on the matter of UFOs, particularly as they relate to U.S. national security policy. I just have a short statement here. The UFO problem has involved military personnel around the world for more than 60 years, and it is wrapped in secrecy. Because this subject is so widely ridiculed, it's important to stress why it's worthy of serious attention. Stories of strange objects in the sky actually go far back in time, but from the 1940s to our own era, military personnel from the United States and many other nations have encountered unidentified flying objects, visually or on radar or both, sometimes at close range. These events happen not scores of times, but hundreds of times, perhaps thousands. Sometimes the encounter was nothing more than a solid radar return of an object moving at an incomprehensible speed, performing impossible maneuvers. Sometimes it included the violation of sensitive airspace. Often it involved the dispatch of one or more aircraft to intercept the object. At times, crew members have claimed to see a metallic disc-like object, sometimes with portholes, sometimes with lights, frequently engaged in what appeared to be intelligent evasive maneuvers. In a very few cases, it appears to have involved the military retrieval of a UFO. In a few others, it involved injury and even death to military personnel. And in a very large number of recorded instances, military personnel who encountered UFOs were adamant that they did not see a natural phenomenon. This is clearly a serious development, and it has been treated as such by those groups charged with maintaining national security. The CIA, the NSA, and all branches of military intelligence have historically received UFO reports and discussed the matter as something of serious concern. And yet, the military and other branches of government have created the fiction for public consumption only that the UFO problem is nothing to be concerned about, certainly not the result of little green men. We are fortunate that starting in the 1970s, the U.S. Freedom of Information Act began to help researchers learn some of the truth that lay behind the facade of propaganda. We learned, for example, that some U.S. military analysts initially feared that the Soviet Union might be behind the flying saucer wave of the 1940s and 50s. They studied this possibility but rejected it. They also rejected the possibility that these were secret American technology. And indeed, options quickly narrowed. Either this was something real and alien, or it was something conventional, but as yet unknown or unexplained. Already by the end of 1947, a contingent of analysts at the Air Technical Intelligence Center, ATIC, at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, believed that UFOs were extraterrestrial. And by the summer of 1948, that team prepared what they called an estimate of the situation, stating the extraterrestrial hypothesis. The response the team was dispersed and reassigned. Yet, thanks to FOIA and the courage of a few senior officials to go on the record, we have a collection of statements about UFOs that are so numerous as to be impossible to mention all of them here. But a few might give you an appropriate flavor of what I mean. Here is one from General Robert B. Landry, Air Force aide to President Harry S. Truman. Landry says, in an oral history interview given about 40 years ago, "I was called one afternoon in 1948 to come to the Oval Office. The President wanted to see me. I was directed to report quarterly to the President after consulting with Central Intelligence people as to whether or not any UFO incidents received by them could be considered as having any strategic threatening implications." Landry went on to say that he continued to brief President Truman in conjunction with the CIA quarterly for the rest of the Truman presidency. That's no less than 16 briefings. We might want to know why a man as busy as President Truman was, why he would take the time out of his schedule to have so many meetings about UFOs. And yet we have no official transcript or record of those briefings. This is a statement from a top secret 1948 Air Force intelligence report called Analysis of Flying Object Incidents in the U.S. Quote, "The frequency of reported sightings, the similarity in many of the characteristics attributed to the observed objects, and the quality of observers considered as a whole support the contention that some type of flying object has been observed. The origin of the devices is not ascertainable." And just two more quotations here I want to give you. An Air Force intelligence report from 1951 relating to an aerial encounter by a U.S. fighter pilot. Object described as flat on top and bottom and appearing from a front view to have round edges and slightly beveled. Quite a bit of detail there. No vapor trails or exhaust or visible means of propulsion, described as traveling at tremendous speed. And one more quote from the early years, this one from a former head of the CIA, Roscoe Hillenkotter, speaking in 1960. "Behind the scenes, high-ranking Air Force officers are soberly concerned about UFOs, but through official secrecy and ridicule, many citizens are led to believe the unknown flying objects are nonsense." Now, how much clearer a statement should responsible citizens, academicians, media, and political leadership require before demanding to get some reasonable answers as to what is going on behind the scenes in relation to the phenomenon of UFOs? Because the problem certainly did not end during the 1960s or 1970s or 1980s, but has continued to the present day. During the summer of 2002, just outside this city, over the town of Waldorf of Maryland, dozens of witnesses reported an incredible scene. Multiple jet fighters chasing multiple large, unknown objects that were of blue and orange coloration. All the witnesses, two of whom I interviewed personally and several of whom spoke to national media, described the amazing performance and capability of these objects. The Air Force itself admitted that it had scrambled F-16s to investigate unknowns, which it had also admitted it had tracked on at least one of these objects on radar. We also learned that the UFO simply disappeared from the radar. The Air Force conclusion was that it could have been, quote, any number of things. Now, perhaps we might like to know precisely which things. What blue object can descend at an 80-degree angle, stop, reverse course, and accelerate away from two F-16 jets near the nation's capital in post-9/11 America? Might be an interesting question to ponder. Over Chicago O'Hare's airport, in November 2006, same kind of situation. A dozen United Airlines employees, including at least one pilot while on the ground, saw a hovering disc-shaped object below the clouds. It then accelerated away so fast that it punched a hole through the cloud. United ordered its employees to silence, but one of them reported the event anyway. After denials by United and the FAA, both agencies were forced to acknowledge that indeed those people had made UFO reports. And again, we might ask, what might this have been over one of the busiest airports in the world, and why the steadfast silence and denial? These are only some of the better-known recent cases. There are, in fact, an overwhelming number of them. The two largest websites for collecting North American UFO reports, the National UFO Reporting Center and the Mutual UFO Network, have a combined total of well over 10,000 reports every year. Every year. Now, clearly many or most of these would turn out to be something prosaic if they were given an adequate investigation. But go through some of these reports. Many of them are truly incredible, and many of them have indeed received follow-up investigation. They are unexplained, and at least by our conventional wisdom, unexplainable. The combination of astonishing performance, powerful statements from selected senior officials, and unremitting silence and dismissal by our political establishment point to a problem. This is not merely the problem of cognitive dissonance. It is the problem of a political system in which the wheels have fallen off the machine. It is imperative, in the name of science and responsible public policy, that we get those wheels back on and begin a genuine, open investigation of this phenomenon. We demand and deserve answers from responsible officials who ought to be in the know. And if they're not in the know, we all need to investigate and find out just who is. Thank you.
All right, that's Richard Dolan. He was actually, in that particular tape, he was testifying at a hearing that was held at the Washington Press Club of May 2013. So it's just a year and a half ago or so. And this hearing was set up as a kind of a mock congressional hearing where testimony was given by a great deal of witnesses and experienced historians and pilots and people who have been involved with the sightings of UFOs and the history of such to testify about what they experienced. And there was 6 retired congressmen who sat kind of in judgment and were available. They could ask questions of the witnesses, and they could respond to what the witnesses said. And it was fascinating. It went on for 5 days. And so, as you can imagine, there's quite a few witnesses and a lot of testimony. And I think the congressmen, and there was 2 congresswomen retired, at the end of the kind of the mock hearing, all became very convinced that what they were dealing with was something real, where none of them had that opinion in the beginning. In fact, many of them were so totally naive on the subject they didn't even know there was a controversy around the existence. So this was an attempt to kind of embarrass or push the real Congress into having a hearing about the whole UFO issue. But interestingly enough, the retired congressmen who were at this mock hearing suggested that when it was over that probably Congress was the last place to take such an issue like this, because it would just get lost in politics, and as far as getting to any real decision making or factual information, it wasn't the way to do it. And their suggestion was to take it to the United Nations and have a program there that develops an organization, part of the UN, that would be involved with galactic kind of policies and have kind of representatives to deal with these beings when they become more public, which is probably certainly the best place for it to happen. And I've read a couple of articles that says that they actually do have a have a office that is dedicated to this, although they don't kind of admit it publicly. But I think they know more than they're saying as far as their awareness of what's going on. So that's a good site to go to. The citizens' hearing on disclosure. You Google that, and you'll come up with a website that has all the information about the hearing, and also has videos and tapes of the hearing, and all the major players in the UFO field testified. Richard Dolan, as I said, and Stan Friedman, the physicist, and Stephen Greer, who's very well known in the UFO field. They all testified, and you can get a lot of information just by listening. Fascinating stuff. Another thing to mention too is that in the whole concept of communicating with these other beings, Stephen Greer in particular, he talks about the necessity of raising our own consciousness to a place where we can be open to receiving the kind of frequency and vibrations that these other beings function on, and we have to find ways to practice kind of slowing down our brains so that we everyday issues, everyday problems, everyday this, everyday that kind of clutter our minds can be put to sleep for a while, and allow other energies to come in and be recognized. Stephen Greer does have a website called SETI, S-E-T-I, .org, that has a profile and a way of doing this kind of a discipline in meditation. And it's a way to quiet the mind. And since I have some open time, I'm going to play a little bit of the what I call the Dalai Lama healing tape. Although there's been controversy whether it really is the Dalai Lama or not, or whether it's recorded by some other group. But either way, it's a tremendous tape, which is basically just a chant. And it's I've used it myself, and I've had many friends use it when they're going into some sort of some medical issue or issue where they need help with their healing. And it also is certainly useful just for getting your mind to relax a little bit. So let me play some of that just to demonstrate kind of what that kind of discipline sounds like. Here we go.
Om Trambakam Yajamahe पुष्टिवर्धनम् वरु अमिवाबन्धनम् मृत्योर्मुक्ष्यमामृता त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् वारुकमिव बन्धनम् मृत्योर्मुक्ष्यमामृता त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वरुकमिव 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 बन्धनम् मृत्योर्मुक्ष्यमामृता ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्ष्यमामृता 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 त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् वारुकमिव बन्धनम् त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वरुकमिव बन्धनम् मृत्योर्मुक्षयमामृता.
I remind you that you're listening to the show High Strangeness, and I'm Gary Wheeler, your host, and you're listening to WRFR 93.3 FM in Rockland and 99.3 FM in Camden, and we also, are streaming on the website WRFR.org. And as well as the website has links to podcasts or YouTube archives of past shows. So you can go there and listen to other shows as well as to this one from the past sessions. That particular chant you're listening to has notes in it that somehow I think go right to my essence of being. But I think that would probably happen for anybody who listens to it, especially if you put on some earphones and listen to it. It'll put you right into a beautiful, peaceful place. And as we've talked about in the past, basic everything that we see, hear, and respond to are just a matter of frequencies of all different sorts. And we have the ability to pick up on certain frequencies, and fortunately we filter out an awful lot of them. Otherwise we'd be totally overwhelmed constantly, kind of with static. But part of our brain, I think, is basically a filter to not experience that, although I think in some cases there are things that we are missing. And some of those particular notes in this this chant are of the 8 hertz variety, and it's been shown that that particular frequency is common with whales when they do their noises in the ocean, and also with other kind of natural sounds that exist. So it's definitely a sound that's in harmony with the earth. So the more we listen to that, I think, the better. And I want to remind you that I have a website, or a Facebook page, I should say, with the address of GW News, the number 2 at yahoo.com. Well, actually, I'm sorry, that's a email address, gwnews2@yahoo.com, where you can send me an email if you have anything to add or have any questions you want me to respond to. And the Facebook page is actually of the same name. It's GW News 2. That's a number 2. And on that particular page is devoted totally to the UFO ET phenomena. There's a lot of information on there, as well as a repeat of some of the things I've done here as well. So, unfortunately, no calls tonight, but I'm going to fade now for the evening, and I'll see you next week, and I wish everybody a good, healthy week. Another storm coming in, so just lay back and enjoy the silence and the beauty that soft snow brings to us. It's a marvelous place to be. So, as always, embrace the mystery, and especially embrace the mystery that is you.